Do you know that type of game they think will be dumb when it's initially revealed, but it ends up being pretty decent? For me, that game is Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I thought that it was going to be a very weird crossover with very unengaging gameplay. Since this was the early days of the Switch's life, I decided to pick it up and liked it immensely. The sequel, Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, in my opinion, is just as good. Though it has been 5 years since I played Kingdom Battle. There will be spoilers in this review, so if one wants to go in blind, I'd say leave now. The game is a tactical turn-based combat game where the player takes control of 3 heroes. The field will be littered with places to hide for both the player and the enemy. The types of cover that there is depends on the stage, but there are half blocks that only allow for partial cover. Giant blocks can be broken down over time with attacks, but will provide full cover until this happens. Most stages will have differences in elevation, which will also factor in hit percentages. Instead of the grid-style movement like in the last game, this one's more free-form. This actually changes a bit as some attacks may now hit if you angle your character just right. I'm not sure if I would call this a positive or a negative change, but it is worth pointing out as it changes the gameplay up. Most fights starts out with the player moving their characters. The player can make characters perform a team jump, which will allow the player to glide in the air for a few seconds to get more distance. They can also run right into an enemy and deal a small amount of damage with a dash attack. Each character gets 2 action points, which can be used to either use their main attack, use their ability, use one of their sparks, or to use an item. After the player moves, then the opponent gets to move, while some may spawn from dark mist portals. This back and forth will go on until either side wins. There are 9 characters that the player can use, and they come decked out with their own attacks and abilities. For example, Rabbid Mario can get in close and do a ton of damage with his dukes, and comes with a counter attack. On the other hand, Luigi is a sniper that should be kept afar. He also has his Steely Stare ability that will shoot enemies if they walk into his field of vision. Mario is a well-rounded character and can shoot twice in one turn. He has a similar ability to Luigi's that will allow him to shoot enemies that walk in his sight. Rabbid Peach can heal her teammates, and has a weapon that arcs upward to bypass partial cover. Peach has decently high HP and can use a barrier on her teammates to protect her and her teammates from attacks. I guess to get a little negative early, I didn't feel like I wanted to use all the characters in the game. These 5 above that I have mentioned are pretty much all I use for the entire game. In comparison, I found Bowser, Rabbid Luigi, and Rabbid Rosalina to either be pretty weak or just not suited for my playstyle. Then I personally just hated Edge's design, so I steered clear altogether. After typing this though, I went online and found that people are posting tier lists of heroes in the game, and there's actually a pretty decent variety in the placements. Maybe it's just because I'm a DPS nut, but I loved getting Rabbid Mario right into the action, having Luigi do insane damage from afar, then having Rabbid Peach be back up it just in case I misplanned something. However, it should also be noted that my strategy doesn't quite work well on some maps. These fights in the game have a decent variety to them. Some maps will be small as hell, and this can really hinder Luigi's usefulness because he does more damage from afar. Some fights are smaller and crazy easy, so using Rabbid Peach, it kinda just seems like a waste for these fights because I'm not gonna get hit. Some maps are simply gigantic, especially the boss fights, and it can be hard to lug around Rabbid Mario because he needs to get in close to be useful. Some fights have different objectives, like reaching an endpoint or surviving a certain amount of rounds. Some of these fights will force the player to use certain heroes. This is actually kinda nice because it can get the player acquainted with all of them. Now when you add this on top of the sparks are the little Luma Rabbid hybrid things, and 2 can be equipped on all heroes. Some of these abilities get pretty damn insane. One of them will allow the player to be invisible, so I put this on Rabbid Mario and just let him loose. Another great one will power up all allies at a certain distance. One can revive down teammates in case if one screws up. Another one can provide the user with healing, which can be helpful if I shelled Rabbid Peach for that fight and I didn't want to use coins or items. The player can level up these sparks with either star bits or potions. Some of them will summon an enemy to help out the player. These guys do respectable damage and will distract the enemies and attract fire. One of them will round up enemies, which can be helpful on Edge or Rabbid Mario. One will disperse enemies. A lot of them will also buff up dash attacks or equipment attacks with elemental damage. There's good variety here, and sparks add a lot to the team building department. Every character will earn EXP after certain fights, and when the team grows a level, they will get a skill prism for each member. The player can use these prisms to upgrade their characters. Some of the basic upgrades are shared among characters, like getting more HP, being able to move farther, just for example. There are other upgrades that are character specific, while other upgrades will make the character specific moves more helpful. Basic things include doing more damage, upping the critical hit ratio, reducing cooldowns, adding dashes, stuff like that. There is decent depth here, and it's nice that the player can use and get back prisms whenever they want. This adds flexibility and lets the player experiment, though I can see the argument that this means that the player's choice doesn't matter as much. It seems like the max level is 30, which won't let the player get every upgrade. I actually don't mind this because at any moment, they can respec for free. So if the player is free to grab whatever upgrades they want at whatever time, should they really be able to get them all? The boss battles here are pretty epic too. These will take place on gigantic stages that will really test the player's abilities in the harder modes. The game will keep sending sending enemies their way, and one wrong move can knock you down a hero. Some of them are so giant in scale that they take several rounds to defeat, and the game will even throw the player a fourth hero. The boss fights were a highlight for me anyway. Moving away from the battling, the player will explore the overworld in between fights. There are 5, kind of 6 worlds to explore. The overworld will be littered with side quests, enemies to fight, shops to buy items from, among other activities. Beepo comes with 2 abilities this time around. One of them will send a purple shockwave forward, which will either break or move objects. The other one will emit a golden ring around Beepo that will uncover hidden objects. These will usually be a bridge or a ladder, something that will let the player get to a new location, or an object that will help complete a puzzle. There are also a few secret zones scattered throughout the game. These will require the player to spend their planet tokens on keys that will unlock the level. These will involve giant scale puzzles that will reward the player with a spark when completed. Seeing how good sparks are and how the combat revolves around them so much, these are usually worth doing. Some of these took me a good minute or 2 to figure out and can help break up the gameplay loop every once in a while. Overall, I like the game a lot, but there are some things here and there that got annoying after a while. The loading screens in this game, they're pretty bad. One reason why I kept my team throughout most of the game is because in order to change your team, you gotta sit through a couple of loading screens. In a game that is so focused on freedom and allowing the player to switch their team, this got annoying after a bit. It would be especially annoying when I hit the wrong button by mistake. The game would wait like 10 seconds to bring up my team, then an additional 10 seconds to get back to the battlefield. If this wasn't that common, sure, I wouldn't bitch about it, but it's surprised how much time is lost due to loading in this game. Another thing that bothered me enough to mention is the fact that non-major battles are randomly generated. In the first game, the battles are actually a part of the overworld itself, so they were purposely handcrafted. A lot of the battles here are dumb, small, and easy. Some of these are done in like a turn or 2. When one does a smaller battle, they may not even get experience for it. They'll get star bits and coins, so they're not completely pointless, but it can sometimes discourage battling wandering enemies. The fights are fun enough, that's why I'll usually do them, but other times, I'll simply run away because I thought it wasn't worth doing and sitting through the loading screens. The last big thing that kinda sucks is the fact that there are no grades for how you did in combat. I remember in Kingdom Battle, the player would earn a letter grade depending on factors such as how much damage they took, how many turns they took, how many heroes got knocked out. It was a lot of fun going try hard, get the maximum grades for everything. In Sparks of Hope though, it pretty much boils down to just win, which doesn't bother some, but I wish that feature would come back. I was guilty of letting heroes die throughout the game, and I really think that you should be punished for it. Most of the time, this was really just due to bad planning on my part. If you want some more nitpicky stuff, the story is kinda meh. While some of the cutscenes are cute and fun, some of them, well, aren't. One could argue that it's a non-issue because you can skip them. It's nice when developers put so much time into cutscenes, then still allow for an option to skip them. They realize that some players want to sit and watch them, while others, they just want to get right to the gameplay. The characters can be annoying at times too. Beepo just kind of annoys me. A lot of the other characters are fine I guess, but this game's humor overall, it just isn't for me. The fact that Rabbid Peach will just scream out live streaming through the whole game irritates me, and other characters will say similar stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm just not hip. Difficulty is subjective, and I think it's a bit hard to rate in this game. I went in pretty much blind, and did the hardest difficulty. I lost maybe a combined total of 5 times, perhaps? It could easily be argued that I planned poorly for these fights. The game itself is pretty easy overall. I think the problem might be with the sparks. The sparks get OP once you upgrade them enough. Some combination of characters and sparks just get ridiculous. Maybe the devs thought that Kingdom Battle was too demanding, and that this could be why they removed the scores indicating how well the player did. I personally think they were targeting the casual crowd this time around. Maybe they just wanted to ease things up. I don't really know. I've done some googling around here, and it seems that there are plenty that prefer Kingdom Battle in virtually every way. I get where they're coming from, I really do. They said that the randomly generated battles aren't nearly as interesting as the handcrafted battles that were part of the overworld in Kingdom Battle. Some say that the fights aren't replayable due to the grading system missing. Some say that the sparks are simply OP and ruin team building. I guess I'd actually have to play Kingdom Battle again to actually compare the two head to head, but I totally get the complaints here just from playing Sparks of Hope. Before we're done here, I want to touch on the Mario Galaxy references. Seeing Rosalina in the Comet Observatory at the end of the game was so cool. The fact that the Sparks are a Luma hybrid and require star bits to level them up, that is such a nice touch. The final boss fight against Cursa was also pretty sick and clever. It requires the player to use all 9 of their heroes in groups of 3. The first stage will have the heroes attack Cursa's giant levitating hands. That final stage with Rosalina though, brilliant. It actually was a decent challenge too, as a lot of my heroes were pretty beat up and one of them was even knocked out. I thought it was a great conclusion to the game. Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope is a great game in my opinion. The gameplay is addicting and fun, the music is great, and the pacing was on point. maybe besides the loading screens. Ubisoft recently announced that this game didn't meet sales expectations, which is very sad to see. I waited until beating both Pokemon Scarlet and God of War Ragnarok to get into this, and I actually ended up liking this more than both of them. A solid 6 out of 7 from me. And it ended up being one of my favorite games of 2022. I played for 35 hours, and who knows, maybe I'll go back for 100% completion eventually.